Transition Tuesday. I'm Jane. This is Joe. Today we're going to talk about push, push, crunch. I got this idea from an exercise person who has an actual exercise called push, push, crunch. And I thought, you know what, that seems like a lot of what our lives are like. Push, push, crunch. You're pushing, you're pushing, you're pushing, and then it's deadline. You get to the deadline and you're crunching. You're like, I am gonna get there. I'm gonna push it to the end. So I thought it was an appropriate title for talking about reaching goals with your transition planning. So you may not be able to see this, but Joe is holding some weights. We actually took these out of some leg weights. These are 1 pound. Joe has a lot of spasticity in his hands, and so it's important not only to stretch his hands out by putting something in them, but Joe also has fabulous biceps. And we want to keep his arms strong, and we also want Joe to promote movement of his arms. His arms and his hands are so spastic that this is pretty much how his body thinks it should be all the time. But we're trying to teach Joe to have control over his arms and hands so that he can manipulate things and have a little more independence. Consider the goal. So we've considered the goal. The goal is for Joe to have more mobility in his hands and arms. We also don't want pressure sores and skin breakdown to happen because he's like this all the time. You know, I know some people whose nails actually cut into their skin because their hands are so constricted and so tight that it causes wounds in their hands. And we don't want that to happen to Joe. So we are using these tools to help us achieve this goal of more mobility, right? Can you show how you put your arms down? Can you put your arms down right now? You move your arms down. So this is me pushing. Push, push, crunch. I am going to keep encouraging Joe to do this thing that we're trying to work on, right? Right? And then that's the push part. So if I wanted to give you a description, practice, track, and deadline. So push, push, crunch. So every day, whatever your goal is, every day, you're going to look at what situations could be opportunities. So right now, we're sitting on the porch. It's a beautiful day. We have some time to work on this goal. So Joe, good. Can you move your hands down? We're going to look for every opportunity we can for Joe to work on this goal of not only strengthening his arms by holding the weights, relaxing his hands because he's got something in them, and moving up and down to release those muscles, tense and release those muscles, to get that muscle memory in there. So it seems like something that would be intractable, right? It seems like, well, Joe has spastic quad CP and he has limited mobility. Well, if you don't ever try to move, your muscles are just going to atrophy more and more and more. So you have to move. Movement is independence. I like the way this arm is down, Joe. Can you bring this arm down? Opportunities. What situations are opportunities? Have we practiced? Every day you reflect on what opportunities have we had, have we taken advantage of. It's a good practice because it makes you realize if you get in the habit of doing it every day you're thinking about, oh, have I worked with my weights today? Have I moved up and down? Have I opened my hands? Have we practiced? Think about it every day. Did you practice this skill? Now, if you are a really organized person, you might have a calendar and you make a little tick mark every time the person has practiced, or every time you personally have you can use this for yourself. It's not just for your person who's in transition planning, but do you maybe put it on a calendar, maybe put some notes on your phone, just it's good to be able to look and see, oh my goodness, we've been practicing this skill for a month, and look at how many times you have accomplished something on the way to this goal. And then what success or barriers have we experienced? So an example of a barrier might be, well, the shape of these weights are not really helping Joe. They're hard for him to hold. Whatever it is, we broke one, or we lost it, or Joe has a sore on his hand and doing this is not helping him. What are the barriers that you've experienced? Sometimes a barrier could be, frankly, a person who doesn't understand the importance of Joe reaching these personal goals. So maybe somebody who works with Joe or is around him doesn't practice, doesn't push for Joe to do these things that he needs to do. It's kind of like exercising. You really have to push yourself to do it. If you get up an hour early to exercise in the morning on a cold February morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. You have to push yourself. If Joe is, I don't feel like doing this today, well, at least put the weights in your hand, Joe. At least put the weights in your hand. Push. You gotta push. You'll never achieve anything. You'll never make it to that deadline if you don't push yourself, whether you have a disability or not. Push, crunch. So your deadline arrives. Let's say that we give Joe the deadline of working every day with these weights in his hands for 1 month. So we wait a month, we go back and say, look, do you feel good? Do you feel good about what you've accomplished? Looking at your calendar, looking at the tracking, considering how every day you've asked yourself the question, have we taken advantage of the opportunities as they presented themselves? Did we do it every day, or did we do it most days? And, what were some of the barriers we experienced? Do we feel good? If you do feel good, if you feel so good that you've accomplished your goal, then what's next? If you didn't reach your goal, you may keep working on that goal. Set another deadline. That would be what's next. So, these are some things, as I said, that we're working on ourselves, and we're sharing it with you because we know that reaching goals is tough to do, but we can do it. Crunch, push, push, crunch. We hope that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you joining us today and being with us. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us, transition2s@gmail.com. And again, thanks for watching. See you next time.